All right, let's jump right in. Welcome, IT administrators and network engineers. Today, we're diving into an explainer on the network module of Supermicro's SuperCloud Composer, or SCC as we'll be calling it. You know the drill. Managing a network fabric, whether it's just a couple of racks or a massive, sprawling data center, can totally feel like untangling a giant box of cables. But today, we're going to see how SCC takes that massive management headache and just completely streamlines the whole process.
So think of SuperCloud Composer as your absolute ultimate command center. It's built specifically to centralize and honestly just simplify all that crazy complex network management across your entire data center. We're talking about taking those deeply fragmented, tedious tasks and pulling them all into one single, highly intuitive interface. It's a real game changer.
Now here's one of the coolest concepts we're looking at today, the switch sweeper. Basically, think of it as your tireless, behind-the-scenes hero that's constantly fighting configuration drift. Because let's be real, when you push a build plan out to your network, you absolutely need it to stay that way, right? This intelligent little agent actively maintains compliance, making sure your original JSON build plans perfectly match the operational ones living right there in the switch's dynamic memory. It literally guarantees that your network reality always mirrors your network design.
Okay, quick roadmap for our macro to micro journey today. First, we'll meet SuperCloud Composer, then look at top-level pods and racks, zoom into specific drawers and appliances, get granular with physical assets, and finally, wrap up by contrasting storage switches versus compute provisioning. Let's get to it.
Kicking things off with Section 1, meet SuperCloud Composer. Let's establish exactly what the baseline capabilities of this network module look like.
Looking at top-of-rack provisioning, the absolute standout feature is that SCC is totally vendor agnostic. That is incredibly powerful for us. Whether you're pulling up interface status, MAC address details per VLAN, checking switch configs, or looking at full network topography, you can seamlessly manage both your Supermicro hardware and third-party switches, like Arista or Juniper, all from a single pane of glass. No more jumping between different management consoles.
Moving right along to Section 2, top-level pods and racks. We're shifting to the macro view, which is exactly where most of us start our diagnostic journey anyway, right?
So at this level, it's all about visibility, and the switchless interface seriously delivers. Click on a POD, a group, or a rack, and boom, you instantly get this clean, high-level data view. Just at a glance, you can pinpoint every switch's location, the manufacturer, the exact SKU, its IP address, and its current firmware version. It completely eliminates the guesswork and gets rid of that tedious manual spreadsheet tracking.
And right there in that same interface, you'll notice a function group bar packed with really useful icons. Take a look at that restart icon, for instance. Having powerful actions just a single click away is fantastic, but yeah, a quick word of caution here. Clicking this will restart the switch and temporarily drop the system. It's a super powerful tool, so just use it carefully, unless you want to become the least popular person in the IT department today.
Let's look at how this bakes efficiency right into your daily routine, like updating firmware, for example. SCC rescues us from dealing with those clunky command line interfaces for routine updates. For supported switches, it is literally a three-step process. First, click the firmware update icon. Second, hit the auto restart checkbox if you want it to reboot on its own. And third, just choose an existing firmware file on your server or grab one right from a local folder. Bam! Done. It's really that streamlined.
All right, zooming in even further for Section 3, drawers and appliances. We're stepping down from the rack level and getting right into the specific hardware.
SCC gives you direct, surgical control over your switch configurations. Select a switch, click the config icon, and you're immediately in the Save to Startup config window. This lets you directly view and save permanent JSON configuration files straight to the startup config. You get to see the actual command lines, stuff like spanning tree modes or transceiver configurations, rendered super clearly right in the UI.
But look, we know how it is. Sometimes you just really need that traditional direct terminal access. SSC hasn't forgotten about you purists out there. Just click the SSH forwarding icon in the object list, and the system instantly copies the specific IP and port details right to your clipboard. From there, you drop them straight into a terminal app like PuTTY, and you've got your direct command line management ready to go.
When we're talking about network discovery, LLDP, the Link Layered Discovery Protocol, is essentially your network's built-in radar. It feeds you the exact identity, capabilities, and neighbors of all adjacent connected devices. SCOC gives you a dedicated view just for this, meaning you can instantly map out exactly what's plugged into your infrastructure fabric. Honestly, it's an absolute lifesaver when you're trying to rapidly troubleshoot a messy issue.
Which brings us perfectly into Section 4, granular control. Now we are zooming way down to the absolute micro level of the fabric, the actual physical ports and MAC addresses. Down here at the port level, everything revolves around the MAC address table, or the CAM table. As we know, this thing dynamically builds the relationships between sender MACs and switch ports to efficiently route frames across the network. The second the switch receives a frame, it instantly ties the MAC address of that sending device right to the specific switch port it came in on.
But here's the catch. Because that CAM table is built dynamically, it is constantly fluctuating. So, and this is absolutely crucial, when you're troubleshooting in SCC, using that refresh icon is a mandatory best practice. Hitting refresh ensures you're spotting any sudden network topology variances in real time. You always want to be diagnosing based on the absolute latest live data, not some cached ghost of your network's past state.
At this super granular level, SCC also hands you tremendous control over VLANs and logical ports directly from the UI. You can filter those MAC addresses by specific VLAN IDs to really isolate traffic. You can spin up brand new VLAN builds, edit existing names, though quick side note, the system will definitely yell at you with an error if you try to use blank spaces in the name. And you can easily assign specific baseboard management controller, or BMC, and LAN ports straight to those VLANs.
Okay, let's move into our final structural layer, Section 5. We really need to talk about the huge differences in how we provision standard compute network switches versus storage switches within SuperCloud Composer.
There is a massive distinction here that every admin needs to respect. Compute switch provisioning, usually pretty straightforward. You're dealing with standard VLAN builds, setting up access modes, trunking, the usual stuff. But storage switch provisioning, totally different beast. Storage demands absolute perfection. You have to configure additional, highly specialized parameters like DCBX, enhanced transmission selection, flow control, and, crucially, strict lossless queues. So, why do storage switches need all that extra babysitting? Because these storage constructs rely heavily on technologies like RDMA and Row-C. These specialized setups are absolutely critical to maintaining the blazing fast, robust, lossless communication you need between NVMe over fabric targets, initiators, and your Ethernet switches. Basically, if your queues aren't perfectly lossless, your high-speed storage fabric simply won't function correctly. End of story.
But here is the really beautiful part about using SCC for all this. Whether you're provisioning a run-of-the-mill compute switch or a highly complex, lossless storage switch, the underlying architecture doing the heavy lifting is exactly the same. You just configure your requirements using these really user-friendly wizards in the GUI. SCC takes those choices, formats them neatly into JSON build plan templates, and then pushes them out via the network orchestrator engine using standard API calls. It basically handles all that underlying complexity for you.
So there you have it, from managing your massive top-level PODs all the way down to diagnosing a single logical port on one specific VLAN, SuperCloud Composer puts your entire infrastructure fabric into one unified, intelligent view. It ensures compliance, supercharges your troubleshooting, and vastly simplifies deployments. So I'll leave you with this to chew on. With all of this power, visibility, and control sitting right at your fingertips, what are you going to build with your network today?